My name is Kyle Ferderer, and I will be discussing the overall automobile industry. So the industry is expected to grow at 6.5% through 2023, which is relatively strong considering it's an industry that's been around for over 100 years. The government regulation, however, could potentially slow that growth, whether it's through safety regulations on vehicles themselves or emission standards, things like that with the engines. And then America ranks second behind the Asia Pacific market in overall manufacturing capabilities, and that's largely due to the original equipment manufacturing capabilities in Japan and China. The competitive landscape in the industry is relatively high. It's very competitive between existing firms. The bargaining power of suppliers is pretty high considering there's a limited number of suppliers that supply kind of the same materials across the industry. There is a low bargaining power for buyers considering there's so many buyers in the market buying cars every day, all year long. The threat for substitutes is high just because of the market saturation, how many products are available in the market, how many companies kind of produce the same subcompact car, for example. And the threat of new entrants is low just due to the economies of scale, essentially the technology that goes into building a car from scratch, and then buying a vehicle is such an emotional experience that to pull buyers away from other brands would be very difficult if they've had good experiences with them. And then we have a competitive map here. You can see Toyota has the highest volume of sales last year at 2.4 million, followed by Ford and Chevrolet, which are pretty close competitors in that same quality, same kind of vehicles that they offer. And then Honda, you can see just below them, producing relatively the same quality of vehicles, but just in a lower capacity. And then you have the higher-end vehicles, which are produced at lower quantities. Your Tesla is going to be your highest with the most innovation, the self-driving features coming out. Then you have Lexus and Cadillac, which are much higher quality vehicles, but are going to be at a higher price point, which there's not as high of a demand in the market for something like that. The industry attractiveness for existing firms is actually pretty attractive based on the growth predicted in the next couple of years. But however, for new firms, there's high barriers for entry due to the economies of scale, the technology that goes into building vehicles, and just the marketing capabilities to compete kind of on that multi-million-dollar advertising budgets that some of those manufacturers have. For existing firms to compete in that growing industry, innovation is going to be key. As we go forward, consumers want the next best vehicle. They want the safest vehicle. They want the most fuel efficient, the vehicle that can drive the farthest on, say, a battery life when you get to electric vehicles. And then these existing firms have to be reactive to changing regulations. They need to be nimble. If the government puts emission standards kind of across the board in the U.S., they need to be able to change their manufacturing capabilities that way and compete kind of under the government regulations. And then, like I said, the industry is expected to grow 6.5%, barring any unseen circumstances. That's relatively strong, kind of on par with, say, the housing market, which is about 6.2% expected. So when you look at another industry and industries that have been around for a long time, it's definitely attractive.